Hey everybody, Luke here. I think you know what time it is. That's right, it's time for me to talk about all the movies from last year that I saw. Now, I want to mention, I really wanted to get this out before the Oscars, but circumstances they just didn't make that possible. So, obviously, this video is later than I would want it to be, but hey, it's out now. That's good, right? Well, anyways, for this year, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to completely rip off Zero Punctuation and do my top 5 best, worst, and blandest movies of the year. Why? Because I feel like it. Now, two things I want to mention. Number one, I have not seen every movie from 2019. I mean, that's pretty much impossible, but I did see a lot of movies. Not as many as I did for 2018, which I believe numbered about 84 movies from that year. 2019, I only saw 63, which, is still a lot more than most people, but not my record. Someday I'll break that record, but it wasn't for 2019. And two, this is obviously my opinion, this is my video, so of course it's my opinion. And if you don't like that, well, might not post your own in the comments. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get started with number 5 on the best list. The 5th best movie of 2019 is Uncut Gems. Okay, if you had told me, I don't know, 7, 8 years ago or so, that Adam Sandler could give a fantastic performance, I would tell you, what? No, it's Adam Sandler. He's a terrible actor. Have you seen his movies as of late? They're awful. And yet, here we are with Uncut Gems, where Sandler gives easily the best performance of his whole career. In it, he plays a neurotic, angry, gambling addicted man who can never stop going higher, and higher with his bets. And it is, how good he is in this movie, it's almost indescribable. I don't know if it's my favorite performance of the year, but it's easily in the top 3. And I'm really sad he didn't get nominated at the Oscars. Thanks, Academy, for that. But you know what? The rest of the movie is no slouch either. I had seen the previous film by the Safdie brothers, Good Time, and that's a very appropriate time because it was certainly a good time. In fact, it was a great time. But you know what? I didn't think they were going to top themselves. And yet, Uncut Gems, they topped themselves with some of the most frenetic, just enthralling, just so expertly paced direction of one of the past few years. What really helps with that is just this is easily the best edited movie of 2019. It just really, the way this whole movie is edited, especially the climax of the movie with the last game that Sandler makes this absurd bet on. The first time I saw that scene, I was it got my heart racing. I was like, what is gonna happen? And even when I saw it the second time, where I knew what was gonna happen, it still got my heart racing. That's a mark of quality right there. When you know how a scene is gonna play out, and yet it still gets your pulse racing. That is a true mark of quality for not just a scene like that, but really for any movie. And that's why, for that and more, Uncut Gems is the 5th best movie of 2019 for me. The 5th blandest movie of 2019 is Glass. Poor M. Night Shyamalan. After Split, everybody thought he was back to making good movies again. And you know what? I would agree with those people. I thought Split was a really good movie. And then we hear about his next movie, a sequel to both Split and Unbreakable. And people are like, oh my god, Shyamalan's really back to making good movies. Hooray! And then Glass came out, and people were like, oh, Split was just a fluke, wasn't it? Yes, unfortunately, Split was just a fluke. Or maybe an accident, I'm not really sure. He had the idea for Split years and years ago, but apparently that was the last good idea he ever had, because then he follows it up with Glass, and all the good stuff about Split is just gone. Well, aside from James McAvoy's performance, which was really good in this movie. In fact, I would say the performances in this weren't too bad, but unfortunately they are so wasted on a screenplay that just doesn't use its characters very well. I mean, good lord. It's boring. There's not a lot that happens. Just, I don't know. Like I said, it feels like Shyamalan used up his last good idea years ago, and it's pretty obvious because he can't use his characters very well. And it turns out he also can't direct anymore because, the dude's been in the industry for like 2 decades now, just about. And yet he can't give us anything more basic than what's in this movie. Like, what happened, dude? You used to actually be a good director. You just can't do any more than just film level basic stuff. What happened? I will get, and there's also this too. It feels very pretentious. A lot of Mr. Glass's dialogue, that him played by Sam Jackson, a lot of it's like, oh, now the character. This is the moment where the characters do blah blah blah. I'm like, dude, shut up. Like he's constantly referencing superhero tropes. Like in the climax, he's like, "Oh, we're gonna go up to the top of the building, and we'll have our fight up there, just like in all the superhero movies." And then he gets killed dead, and that's apparently supposed to be like a subversion of superhero tropes, or I don't know. Whatever it is, it's lazy, and it's not as clever as it thinks it is. And for that, it gets number 5 spot on the bland list. The 5th worst movie of 2019 is Climax. Alright, I'm probably going to end up getting some hate from a few of the film nerds in the comments, and even some of the people who follow me and who I also follow on Letterboxd, because this is also going up on Letterboxd. Yeah, I know. Like, a lot of the people I follow on Letterboxd, like, they all love this movie. Given that it's on the worst list, you can tell that I didn't. I mean, maybe I can understand why somebody might like this, but I just didn't. Like, and I know. Like, here's the thing about this movie. You don't watch a movie like Climax for the story of the characters. You watch it for the experience of watching the movie. And you know what? I get that. There are movies like that. But you know what? I can describe my experience with this movie like this. I was really bored the first half of the movie. And then after the characters drink the spiked punch, that's when the movie got really unpleasant. Like, there are moments where, there's a girl character who is pregnant, and then she's like, "Oh, I'm pregnant," and all those drugged up characters will repeatedly kick her and mock her and just attack her right in her pregnant belly. Yeah, that's pleasant. There's a kid in the movie who also ends up drinking the spiked punch, and he gets locked in a closet or in some sort of boiler room, and he's hallucinating cockroaches crawling over him. We don't see this happening. We just hear him scream about it. And then, spoiler alert, we eventually see his dead body. Yeah, that's pleasant. Thanks for that movie. I really want to see the dead body of a child. Thanks. So yeah, overall this movie was again boring the first half, deeply unpleasant the second half. And you know what? If you're into that kind of thing, good for you. I'm not. I'd rather have a better experience watching a movie than this. In fact, you know what? There is a movie from 2019 that is more about the experience of watching it than about anything else. That movie is called Relaxer. I highly encourage you to check it out. And you know what? Some might say that's all. The people who've seen that might also say that movie is unpleasant in a few ways. And you know what? It is kind of in a few ways. It's kind of a little gross in some ways too. But I found myself so much more engaged in what was happening in that movie. And granted, not a lot happens in that movie. In fact, you know what? Relaxer and Climax do share a few similarities, but I would say Relaxer is a much better movie than Climax. I at least didn't feel deeply unpleasant watching it. The fourth best movie of 2019 is The Irishman. Okay, I'm gonna confess something right now. I have seen like only a small handful of Martin Scorsese's movies. In fact, I can think of two off the top of my head right now that I know for sure I have seen. I have seen Hugo and Silence, which basically means aside from those movies and now The Irishman, I've not seen any of his other movies, which also means aside from The Irishman, I have not seen any of his gangster movies. So yeah, you like I can always sense some of you want to type your little angry comments down in the comments section and be like, "Oh my God, I've not seen most movies." Please hold your comments until the end of the video, please. But while we're here, let's talk about The Irishman. Like, even as someone who has not seen any of his gangster movies, or again, haven't seen so few of his movies, even I can tell this is probably one of his best movies he has ever made, and easily one of the biggest movies he's ever made in scope. Like this is like, I mean, this is a mob epic, like few have actually made, and it's an epic movie, all right. I mean, it's like 3.5 hours long. How many movies released nowadays are even that long? In fact, that may be one of the only issues one might have with the movie, in that it's really, really long, and that some might say it's even too long. I understand if you might feel that way, but for me, that length feels earned. It never feels like it wastes its time. And in all that time, we get like a trio of amazing performances from Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, and Al Pacino. I mean, they are all of them are in top form in this movie, and it's not like the rest of the cast is terrible. In fact, everybody in this movie is great. It's just that those three guys are just amazing, and really, so is the whole movie. I mean, it's not often that you can have such a long movie, and yet it be so compelling every step of the way. Like I said, it never feels like it wastes its time. In fact, I'll be honest, even at 3.5 hours, it doesn't feel as long as that. That's because it's so well paced, and Scorsese's direction is just in top form. For all these reasons and more, The Irishman gets the number 4 spot on the best list. The fourth blandest movie of 2019 is The Secret Life of Pets 2. Okay, I'm probably a little nicer to Illumination than I maybe should be. In fact, there might be a couple people who are like, you know, this should be on the worst list because it's Illumination. They made terrible movies. No, not really. The movies aren't necessarily terrible, but you know, I mean, they've made bad movies. Believe me, I have seen their version of The Lorax. That's an awful movie. But you know what? Secret Life of Pets 2 is not as bad as that movie. But of the movies of theirs I have seen, this feels like the most worthless. I don't there's nothing to this movie. I'll be honest, I didn't even like the first Secret Life of Pets that much. But even it had like a focus to it. There's like a clear through line with its characters. But this movie has multiple side stories going on that barely connect until the end, where they all like car crash connect in a bad way. That's a bad way of putting it, but you know what? The movie put it badly too. So whatever, blame the movie for sloppily bringing all of its stories together. And honestly, the side stories by themselves are just not interesting whatsoever. I don't like the characters in this movie. I don't really like the writing. It's just bland kid stuff. It's like, I mean, I'll be honest. Like, you can probably show this to your kids, and I mean they'll be entertained. But you know what? You can just show them a good movie, like a good kids movie from 2019, like Klaus or How to Train Your Dragon 3. Those are great movies. Don't show them this. You can honestly show them much better kids movies than Secret Life of Pets 2. That's for sure. The fourth worst movie of 2019 is The Hustle. Well, this is easily the worst comedy of 2019 I saw for sure. This is a whole movie carried by two terrible leads. Anne Hathaway is terrible in this movie. That accent she has is terrible. She does not play it very well off of Rebel Wilson, who is also terrible. Probably even worse. Let's see. It's Rebel Wilson, so you can probably guess all the jokes that they're going to make with her. She's annoying. She's fat. She's a slob. Gee, where have I seen those jokes before with her? Oh yeah, it's kind of that. Didn't she have a show that was like that? Yeah, that show that nobody remembers that she starred in. Yeah, typical Rebel Wilson jokes. And really all the jokes in this movie are just terrible, typical, and just... This movie was not funny. It really wasn't. I mean, I don't know how this compares to the movie it's a remake of, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, but I imagine Dirty Rotten Scoundrels is a million times better than this movie. But you know what? Even without that movie, it wouldn't matter, because this movie is still terrible and unfunny. Man, I don't know what else to say about it. This movie is just unfunny. Don't ever watch this. Just don't. Anne Hathaway and Rebel Wilson are both terrible in this movie. Maybe this movie could have worked. Maybe this movie could have worked a little better if you had better leads, but even better leads would not save a movie that is just this deeply unfunny at its core. And that's why it gets the number 4 spot. The third best movie of 2019 is Avengers Endgame. Hey, you know what? Going back to the comments, well, I won't get angry comments for this entry, but I might imagine I'll get a few confused comments. Like, even from people who loved Avengers Endgame, they might be like, oh, wait, this movie was great, but, like, top 3 material? I don't know, dude. Well, you know what? I don't care. I loved this movie when it was in theaters, and even giving it a watch at home, which some people did, and they were like, oh, well, it's not as good at home. I'm like, no, you know what? It's still a fantastic movie. Like, here we are at the end of the initial Avengers saga. I don't know. We may have more Avengers movies at some point, but we won't have these Avengers. And you know what? I can't think of a better way to conclude this first saga of the MCU with such an amazing movie that's engaging, exciting, action-packed, emotional. I mean, it has just about everything I would want out of a big blockbuster like this that concludes like about 11 years of stories. And I have to give applause to everybody who worked on this movie. To Marvel, to Disney, they all did an amazing job with this one. And although I will admit, if I had any little complaints, any little nitpicks about this movie, it's any time they talk about the time travel. Now granted, I wouldn't consider these moments bad, but they're not good either. Granted, I mean, they only briefly took me out of the movie for a few moments at a time when they showed up. And when they did, I was like, I don't really care about this that much. I mean, it's kind of necessary for what they're doing, but I'm just tuning out this little bit right here. But you know what? Even those few moments were not enough to keep this movie off the number 3 spot. The third blandest movie of 2019 is Serenity. I don't know what this movie is, dude. We're gonna cut this short with this movie because honestly, there's so little to say about it. It's bland. The characters are bland, the story is bland, it's all so boring and bland and dumb. So you may be surprised as that it's not number one on the list. Yeah, well, there's a reason for that. It's because there is a plot twist to this movie that is so absurd and so stupid and so makes so little sense that it actually keeps it from being number one. It's that stupid. It's honestly kind of hilarious in a way. But you know what? That's all that's really there is to say about it. It's boring and bland until a really hilariously absurd plot twist. Good job, Serenity. You deserve your number 3 spot. The third worst movie of 2019 is Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. Hey, here's a fun little fact for you. If I wasn't making a worst of list, instead I just had a best and blandest list, Maleficent, Mistress of Evil would easily take the number 1 spot on the blandest list. And yet, here it is on the worst list, which I guess essentially means it's too bland for the bland list. I can't decide if that's amazing or just ironic. I don't know, but you know what? It totally deserves its spot on the worst list because it is so dull, so dumb, I mean, this is easily one of the most unoriginal movies I have seen in a very long time. In fact, I would not even say this movie has a plot. I would not even say it has a story. I would not even say it has characters. It instead has just a series of tropes. You have only tropes of characters. You don't have a story driven by a hodgepodge of bad and overused tropes, including the Chosen One story, the most overused trope of them all. A trope I have gotten so sick of that I promise you this: the next time I see a movie that throws a Chosen One story on me out of nowhere, I am walking out of the theater. I'm not even joking. I will do that because this movie was my breaking point on that trope. I'm so tired of it. And I'm honestly tired of movies just not trying at all. This movie doesn't try at all. And you know what? I'm going to give it this. I want to give the first Maleficent something. I actually kind of liked that movie. That movie is also very trope heavy, but it also has stuff going for it. It had a decent enough story. Angelina Jolie was pretty good in it. You know, it had stuff. I mean, it actually had good things going for it. But none of those things are in Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. Angelina Jolie doesn't try anymore. In fact, no, I don't think anybody tries in this movie. I mean, it's just a boring, cliched slog of a movie. That's why it deserves the number 3 spot. The second best movie of 2019 is Parasite. So in making this list, I knew I would have to rewatch a few movies before I figured out if and where they should go on that list. And for Parasite, in my initial Letterboxd review, I was like, well, I mean, it's a pretty great movie, but I don't know if I would consider it a masterpiece. I think I need a few rewatches before I do that, though. Maybe then I would consider it a masterpiece. Yeah, apparently all I needed was one rewatch. Because now I would easily say that Parasite is a genuine, bona fide masterpiece. Bong Joon-ho's latest movie is such an intricately made movie that I can't even believe the craft on screen. All the performances, the absurdly amazing direction, the phenomenal screenplay. Every little bit of this movie just shines so well. The way Bong Joon-ho just conveys each of his themes of class struggle, social and class divide, all that stuff that is honestly a little too over my head because I'm kind of stupid on that kind of stuff. Just the way he does all that stuff. just the way he conveys all these ideas is just so smart that it's almost unbelievable. And yet, there it is on the screen, as amazing as you really think it is. It'll be a very long time before we ever see a movie as intricate and amazing as Parasite ever again. And you know what? For that, I think Parasite honestly deserves its number 2 spot. The second blandest movie of 2019 is X-Men Dark Phoenix. Hey, you know what? I spoke about Avengers Endgame earlier being an amazing conclusion to a saga. Yeah, X-Men Dark Phoenix is how you don't conclude a saga. Whereas Avengers Endgame is exciting, funny, and thrilling. All that. X-Men Dark Phoenix is boring, stupid, and it feels like no effort was put into it whatsoever. This honestly feels like a movie where its producers were like, fine, we'll just, whatever, just write something, we'll just get out. We want to be done with this movie. We don't want these characters anymore. And that is honestly what it feels like. It feels like nothing happens in this movie. Like, the story has no pace to it. The characters have no emotion. It honestly feels like just nobody cared. And you know what? If they don't care, why should I? Well, honestly, now that Disney has bought out 20th Century Fox, here's hoping if they try the Dark Phoenix storyline themselves, I can only hope they do better than these people did. The second worst movie of 2019 is Godzilla King of the Monsters. Okay, I'm probably going to get some hate for this, for putting Godzilla King of the Monsters on here. Although, I won't get hate from film fans, I'll get hate from Godzilla fans. Because honestly, here's what I'm going to hear. They'll be like, oh, but the monster fights were really good, right? So the movie's good, right? Yeah. No, it isn't. See, I'm going to come out with this right now. How much of this movie is really about the monsters? I want to say about 10, maybe 15%. Maybe, if we're being absurdly generous, 20% of the movie is the monster fights. Okay? Now, we'll come back to that 20% about those monster fights. How about the rest of the movie? Well, the other 85 to 80% of the movie is all about the human characters. And you know what? Whatever you want to say about the last Godzilla movie that came out over here, this is the 2014 Godzilla. I mean, yeah, everybody has its problems with the human characters, namely that the main character was not Bryan Cranston, and I will agree with you there, that was a bad decision. But I didn't think the human characters were that bad in that movie. But even if I thought they were bad, oh my god, they're not this bad. I mean, it's like the people who made this movie heard the criticism of the 2014 Godzilla and were like, yeah, you know what? We can do even worse. We can do even worse than that. They can not only. I mean, they cannot just be bland. They can also be horribly written too. Just like this whole. Like, I don't even know what to say about the human characters in this movie. I mean, they're just bad. They're just bad. I mean, what am I supposed to say about them? I didn't care about them. Their plight just was not interesting to me. And then, like, there's, like, certain secrets revealed about one of them, and I'm like, oh, wow, you're really, really stupid. The plan, the I guess, evil humans in the movie have are, like, it's so stupid and absurd that I cannot believe the filmmakers, like, wrote this down and were like, yeah, that's good. Print. Put that in the screenplay. No one will complain about this. Yeah, well, here I am complaining about it. You should have tried a lot harder with the human characters because they are so awful they bring this entire movie down. But again, that's because they're most of the movie. What about the monster fights? I mean, they're okay. I mean, I'll just, but I'll be honest. They could have been a lot better. For one thing, whoever decided to do the camera work or the CGI for the monster fights just doesn't know what they're doing, because the camera moves like a spastic monkey. Like whoever controls the camera in those scenes, like they can't keep the camera still. It's like the guy who, it's shot. It must be shot by the same guy who did the first Hunger Games movie, or something, or at least edited by the guy who did Bohemian Rhapsody. And then there's the fact that the monster scenes, like a lot of the monster fights, kind of shot in darkness and rain, which makes them really hard to see. Makes it hard to tell what's really happening in the movie. I mean, I will give it this. Aside from those complaints, the monster fights really, they're not too bad. They're kind of exciting. The monsters themselves look pretty amazing. But really, it is only the okay monster fights themselves that keep this movie from being number one on the list. But seriously though, dude, that other 8% of the movie, other 80 to 85% of the movie, oh my god, it is so terrible. And that's how this movie winds up on the number 2 spot. And the number 1 best movie of 2019 is... Now, I spoke about Parasite earlier. Just how amazing that movie is, how intricately made it is, just every little bit of the movie working so well. It's absolutely deserving of the number 2 spot. Why not number 1? Well, I'll be honest. Even the first and second watch of the movie, it's an amazing, it's a genuine masterpiece. Don't get me wrong. But it didn't leave me speechless. Not in the way that number 1 did. And honestly, very few are the movies that leave me truly speechless at just how amazing they are, just how well they are made, just what's on screen, just leaving me in awe of just how amazing it is. Marriage Story is one of those few movies. It's a movie about a couple just going through divorce. That's the whole movie. It is, but it doesn't need to be any more than that. Like the whole movie. Like I've never witnessed a couple going through divorce. Not every little process of it, and yet the whole movie just feels so real and true to life that I can't help but feel this is accurate to how it tends to be. And Adam Driver, Scarlett Johansson, oh my god, like these two are I don't know if they're my favorite performances of the year, but if they aren't, they are absurdly close. In fact, I might even just go out and say it. They are probably my 2 favorite performances of the year so far. In fact, just watching them, I don't feel as if I'm watching just 2 actors just read off their lines and go by and just perform the direction that Noah Baumbach wants them to do. No, I feel like I'm genuinely watching a couple going through this messy, complicated, and just all around crazy divorce. And you know what? Even the rest of the cast is no slouch either. They're all pretty great. And honestly, just the way this whole story plays out too. Like again, I already said it, but I'll say it again. It feels real. It feels like I'm really watching a couple go through a divorce. And I can sympathize with both these characters too. The movie never takes a side on this divorce. You're not supposed to sympathize with just Scarlett Johansson's character. You're not meant to sympathize with just Adam Driver's character. You can sympathize with both of them. They both have their ups and they both have their downs. They both have their obvious flaws, but they also have the good things about them too. And I imagine that's what a real divorce is like. It's not necessarily one person's fault. Like in this divorce, you get the sense that there's probably a little bit of blame to go around on both sides. And honestly, just I don't know, dude. I mean, it's hard to really talk about this movie because I just love it that much. I'm glad this movie exists because I think we all probably need a movie like this. A movie just this amazing about this subject matter. This movie that just leaves me speechless. Again, it's hard for me to find the words to talk about it. But you know what? Maybe that's why Marriage Story absolutely deserves my spot as the best movie of 2019. And the number one blandest movie of 2019 is... Now, I'm going to give all the previous entries on the blandest list a little bit of credit. With Glass, there is at least a story that they want to conclude, and they at least had a few decent performances, and it was also just mostly bland, and also a little bit pretentious, rather than just being totally bland. Secret Life of Pets 2, I'm at least nicer to Illumination than a lot of other people, and it's at least a kids movie, so I guess my expectations were just a little bit lowered because of that. Also because I kind of knew what to expect from Illumination. With Serenity, it had that absurd plot twist at the end that makes it almost kind of hilarious. And with X-Men Dark Phoenix, it also at least had a story they wanted to conclude. Men in Black International? No. Of all the movies I saw in 2019, this one has me the most confused. I don't know why this movie exists. Like, I don't know who asked for another Men in Black movie. Nobody asked for another Men in Black movie. And no one wanted another Men in Black movie because this movie did really badly at the box office. The story is awful. The characters are awful. Like, the action is bland and bad. The special effects look like crap. I mean, this is just a movie that I didn't want. Again, nobody wanted this movie. And here's hoping that whoever owns the rights to Men in Black, I don't know who, I didn't bother to check. Who's hoping they don't try this again? Because if they try to make another Men in Black movie, it might even bomb worse than this one. Because honestly, I mean, nobody asked for, and I'll be honest, nobody even asked for a Men in Black 3, although apparently that movie wasn't too bad. But I don't know who wanted another Men in Black after that. So congratulations, Men in Black International. You're easily the blandest and most pointless movie of all of 2019. Congratulations. Now please, kindly never get a sequel. And the number one worst movie of 2019 is... a tie. Yeah. It's been a while since I've had a tie for worst movie of the year, hasn't it? Back in 2016, I had a tie with two propaganda movies, God's Not Dead 2 and Hillary's America. And well, we do have a propaganda movie tie for the worst spot. It's Christian propaganda. It's an anti-abortion propaganda movie, which you can probably guess what that is. But the other movie is the epitome of corporate greedy laziness. In fact, it's a movie so awful. I understand where all the haters are coming from when they hate on these movies. I finally understand it now. And I will not be seeing any more of these movies because of how awful and lazy this one is. So, with that out of the way, the two worst movies of 2019 for me were Unplanned and the live-action remake of The Lion King. How about we start with start with the remake of The Lion King, huh? How about we start with that? And you know what's funny? Before I went to go see the remake of The Lion King, I made sure to watch the original, and I would say is easily the best movie of all the Disney Renaissance. But what happens when you take that movie and you suck out everything that makes it work? Everything that makes it a classic? Well, let's see. You get a movie that is a bland retread of the original. Let's see. How about the voice acting? The voice acting in the original movie is pretty great. All the voices fit the characters really well. Let's replace that with a voice acting by actors who aren't really trying that hard, and so the quality ranges from okay to really, really awful. In fact, I'm actually going to break with the people, even with the people who even don't like this movie either, who even hate it as much as I do. I'm going to break with those people and say that Seth Rogen and Billy Eichner as Timon and Pumbaa respectively. No, I think it's Seth Rogen as Pumbaa and Billy Eichner as Timon. But either way, I would say they are both the two worst parts of the movie, by far. Let's see. So we have really bad voiceovers. How about the character animation in the original? They're really expressive. It's 2D animation. It's some of the best Disney has ever put out. The characters all convey such a wide variety of emotion, not just through the voice work, but through just how the characters are animated, through their faces, bodies, everything. But because in the remake they're trying to go for photorealism, they look like real lions, so they can't really be expressive. Which again, that wouldn't be a problem, but hey, let's go back to the voice acting, because the voice acting is so not trying at all. You can't even get any, you're supposed to pick up the emotion through the voice acting, but the voice acting is awful mostly all around, so you don't even have that. Good job, guys. Let's see, the songs. Songs in the original Lion King. Classic, iconic songs. I Just Want to Be King, Circle of Life, Hakuna Matata, Be Prepared. All those songs, classics, all of them. This movie screws up every single one of them. Don't even get me started on Be Prepared, which instead of being this bombastic sing-song speech, it is instead like this kind of low-key, toned-down, like serious whatever it is. And it's funny, and when I was watching the movie, it took until like the third or fourth verse for me to realize, Scar's actually singing the song here. What? I didn't even notice. And the less said about Can You Feel the Love Tonight, the better, given that it's shot during the day. Good job, guys. And honestly, the changes they made to how the story plays out in this movie, like from all the little changes to all the major stuff, like they actually added a couple scenes while taking away like maybe one or two, and I don't know why they did that. And looks like all the changes in this movie are for the absolute worst. So yeah, the live action Lion King, like it is so awful that even before I saw this movie, I was kind of nice enough to the live action remakes. Like I had seen the live action Dumbo, I had seen the live action Beauty and the Beast, Jungle Book, Pete's Dragon, all those. I thought Jungle Book and Pete's Dragon remakes were good. Dumbo and Beauty and the Beast, they were okay, I guess. But the Lion King remake was so awful. I'm not gonna see any more of them. I don't care if they're good. I'm not giving Disney my money for what they did for what they're doing to these movies. Like I said, of all the live action remakes they have done, this is easily the pinnacle of corporate laziness of all of them. But now, let's get to Unplanned. Like I said, it's an anti-abortion propaganda movie, made by Pureflix. And you know what? After God's Not Dead 3, I didn't think they'd be capable of trying to make another terrible propaganda movie. But what was I thinking? It's Pureflix. They will try that again. But instead of whining about atheists and having their and how Christians are having their rights curtailed, even though they're not, they're instead whining about women getting abortions. I mean, are you really surprised? And you know what's really bad? This is a movie that actually tries to tout itself as being accurate. Like, there are actually points in this movie where they actually give some kind of half truths, and they're no doubt in there just to make you think, oh well, this movie is accurate. No, it isn't, because it mixed in with all the half truths are absurd lies. I don't need to tell you what those are because you can probably guess what they're gonna say. I mean, what else do you want me to say about Unplanned? It's an anti-abortion propaganda movie. I'm sure all the Christians who might watch me like, oh, you're hating on this movie because you're not Christian. No, I'm not. No, I am Christian, but I recognize a terrible movie when I see one. This is a terrible movie and it's terrible propaganda. But I will give it this: the only reason it's tied with Lion King and not Action Number 1 is that it looks decent. It's better. It looks better than the first two God's Not Dead movies. I will give it that. And the performance, like the production values, the performances, they're okay. I will give it that at the very least. That's probably the nicest thing I will ever say about Unplanned, because everything else about it deserves nothing but your scorn. And for that reason, and everything else I talked about, Lion King as well, both the Lion King remake and Unplanned are the two worst movies of 2019. Well, that's it for the best, worst, and blandest movies of 2019. I'll be honest, for as long as I've been really following movies and really keeping up with all the movies I watch, I will say 2019's actually been one of the best years in recent memory, as far as I can tell. There were a lot of great movies this year. In fact, if you'd like to know what all the movies from 2019 I have seen, go down to that description and you'll find a link to my Letterboxd list. Every movie from 2019 that I've seen will all be ranked from best to worst down in that list. And if you'd like to list your best, worst, and blandest of 2019, please leave your list in the comments below. Well, that's it for the video. I've been Luke, aka Mastronos, and I will see you guys next time. Take care, everyone.